Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Next Level Real Talk Podcast, where we have conversations on the journey of personal transformation and the pursuit of lasting peace and happiness with Sheldon and David. And welcome back to another episode of Next Level Real Talk Podcast with Sheldon and David. What's up, Dave?
Not much. Having a great week. How you doing? How was your week this week?
Good. It was awesome. We'll just jump right in, right? So,
Yeah, let's get in it.
get in
So,
it. Navigating, uh, navigating media, right? Navigating, um,
just information,
yeah,
navigating information, not just the media, but
yeah,
any information anybody tells you or you see or you read, how to navigate that in certain
yes,
ways, because we know that's a big thing in the world today.
yeah,
And as you and I were talking earlier, just came up in conversation like, hey, that's something be good to talk about today.
yeah. Because we're always talking about coming from the heart, staying centered, and
Hmm.
being open to whatever is, and coming from a loving, compassionate place. But how do you do that in the world that's so divided right now? Right? It feels like polarized in so many different ways, and we pretty much try to stay away from the whole political thing, right?
Yep.
But also recognizing that how do you reach out across the aisle, regardless of what side you're on, right? And saying, hey, we're all human beings, and that's one of the things that the Dalai Lama's always got. Well, in the end, we all just want to raise our families. We all want to do,
Yep.
we want our kids to do better than we did, and we want to be happy, and we want to feel secure. We want to be able to provide for our family. Okay, boom, we're done.
Hmm.
But then as soon as you get past that, it gets separate.
Yeah. Then the fights begin. Yeah.
Yeah, the fights begin. Well, how do you raise your family? Oh, fuck you, whatever. Right?
That's what
So,
becomes the, yeah.
but when we can stick to those basics, right? But how do you do that when you're seeing so much stuff? And we were talking before we started recording about, and hopefully this can be something that isn't like necessarily too polarizing, right? But it's just a kind of like a case study, is what we were talking about, is looking at that whole um, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni thing. Um,
Mhm.
which is a movie called This Is Us, or This It Ends With Us, or something
It
like
ends with
that.
us. It ends
Y
with us, yeah.
and it's a
Mhm.
movie about, right, abuse, the cycle of abuse and ending it, right? And, it appears that there was some kind of, uh, co
Disagreement of what happened?
disagreement,
Yeah, let's use
between the
that,
2
yeah.
of them. Yeah, some sort of conflict that happened to the point where they weren't even seen together at the premiere, right? And Baldoni had to go down and kinda take a back entrance from what I saw. He couldn't be on the red carpet, and there was all this kinda stuff, and, you know,
There
I
are
think
accusations on both sides,
yeah, and there was
each
accusations
other.
going back and forth, and it's kind of
Mhm.
interesting. We wanted to talk about it because I think my opinion and my view and what I saw and things has shifted over time, and I don't know what is the truth, right? We don't
Mhm.
know what was in the hearts of these people, right? And so it kinda goes back to that story, that Chinese fable that we talked about, good or bad, I don't know.
Mhm, yep,
Right?
and
It's go ahead.
yeah, and where we're going with it, and that won't be the only one, just that's a good story to talk about, will we dwell more, but it's because she said something and it became him was the very, 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 very bad guy, and then if you and that's I read that first article and I was done. I'm like, "Okay, I don't need to hear about that anymore."
Yeah,
Not something I wanna
uh,
dwell on. I'm not into the lives of actors, you know, go with it. And so, okay, oh, Jason Baldoni is a bad guy. Moved on. Well, as it went forward, started to learn a little more. I'm like, wow, I still don't know enough of it, but I didn't look at both sides of the story or
yeah,
both. I
yeah,
didn't research basically.
yeah,
So it's easy to come out and say something, but is there something to back it up? That's
yeah.
the whole thing, you know.
And
So
and when people are and when media, I think that there's, again, how do you stay heart-centered in the midst of all of the media onslaught? And if what
mhm,
feels like becoming really apparent is that the media has an agenda itself.
mhm,
You know what I mean? And it doesn't feel like, oh, it's just the truth. There's a purpose to this, right? And it does
yeah,
feel like you're seeing that more and more, in politics, um,
yeah.
it used to feel, again, when we were growing up, it used to feel like Walter Cronkite and Dan Rather and those guys,
Tom Brokaw,
Tom
man.
Brokaw, and before Tom Brokaw, what was his name? Oh my god, I'm just blanked out. I'm seeing his face. But anyway, um, John Chancellor, those
Mhm,
dudes felt like they had integrity, right? And it
mhm,
felt like, and maybe it wasn't, right? Maybe they were still playing the game back then too, right?
yeah,
But it felt like that the truth mattered and people were
mhm,
neutral and they weren't trying to put their opinion into the news. They were trying to just convey the news and let you make up your mind, kind of thing, right?
mhm.
And it doesn't feel like that anymore, right?
Yeah,
So
because if you took, um, one situation, I don't know if you wanna take the podcast or a situation in the world, if you watched a far left and a far right on the exact same, you could do a 5-minute blip of something and see what each of them talk about, and they're totally different. It's like, "Wait, how did you get that out of that?" You go to the other station, like, "You got something totally different out of that. This is what they said." And so there's that. You have to do your own little research and go,
yeah,
okay, where's what? Because I understand they believe that. Neither are wrong. That's just what they're hearing. But
yeah,
what do you want to hear? What do you need to
yeah.
hear? You
And
know.
they
So
they what do
yeah.
they talk about? The echo chamber, right? And the
Hmm.
self-reinforcing belief system, right? And social media does that. If you're liking a bunch of really conservative views, then you're gonna get a bunch of conservative stuff coming back and forth. So it's gonna reinforce your belief system that this is the only way. And the same with the other side, and the same with
Hmm.
all the things, right? We are just talking about, you know, how your phone is listening to you,
I was just going to talk about
you know,
that.
right? And you wanna share your little quick story about with the luggage thing?
The luggage?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first off, well, because I one time I was wanting some for Christmas, and wasn't where I was looking for stuff online or anything. Just Ashley and Josh, my daughter and son-in-law, said, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?" You know what? I need some new luggage, and that's all I did. I just told them. I didn't search it. I didn't nothing. I was just told them what I wanted, and walked away. And all of a sudden, on my Facebook, on my this was before Instagram, on my Facebook, on my phone, I'm just like, what the heck is all this? All of a sudden, I'm getting luggage ads. I'm like, oh, it wasn't like, whoa, what's this? It was like all of a sudden, oh, it's kind of cool. Oh, that's cool because I was asking about luggage. Maybe I can start looking at luggage. And so I started going down the rabbit hole because more luggage kept coming up on all my little ads. I'm like, that's fun. That's kind of cool that they started coming up. Well, I bought some luggage. Hey, this is the kind of luggage I want, and wound up buying luggage from one of the ads, you know.
So they
And
gotcha.
so, by the way, they got me. And so, way back in the day, Sheldon uh, turned me on to a show because you need to watch Social Dilemma. If you have not watched Social Dilemma, it's honestly kind of funny.
Yeah.
Watch it because it talks about they know what you're doing. Not I'm not going to say a very negative way, but it's
Just they're
it's
tracking.
those the yeah, and it's there's the best part of that movie for me is like there's two guys sitting there and there's two different people and one guy has you, one guy has me. He's like, and let's say I just I'll go down something. Let's say I'm looking for rocks. Okay, I'm looking for rocks. Here's a rock right now. I was looking at some. I'm looking for rocks. Boom. And all of a sudden, some other story about some other thing, about some other person talked about rocks. So, hey, Smithers talked about rocks. They'll throw me that article or throw me that thing. I'm like, I've never seen this company before, or seen this newspaper before. Why am I getting papers? Why am I getting feeds from them? It's because one thing that I said or looked at said, hey, he must like this topic. Let's send it to him. It's like,
Yeah.
no, that's not what I wanted. So that it's just that there's what do you call those things? Algorithms that
Yeah.
give you information, and it's
Yeah.
not necessarily so negative. It's just, hey, he's interested in luggage. Boom, they got
Yeah.
me. But think about if you're in that, and I'm again, I don't want to do politics, but just real quick, if I go down, if I'm looking at all, let's say, left wing stuff, or I'm looking at all right wing stuff, guess what? I'm gonna get feeds on
Yeah.
more of what I'm looking at. So it's like I may only see one side.
Yeah.
It's like I need to go make sure I see the other side so I know that what's that side saying, what's this side saying, and then you need to make your own decision from there,
Yeah.
not just from what one group says.
Yeah.
And that was a problem with my dad and stepmom because they watched one channel all the time, and we would sit there and have conversation. I'm like, you know, that's somewhat right. That's not totally right. You got to, well, no, this is what they say. I'm like, okay. So I stopped having that conversation because there was no way that I
Yeah.
was going to be able to have a good conversation. And so, but they weren't willing to look at, they were just listening to what was said. That was it.
Yeah. So
So,
having an awareness that what I think the takeaway, I guess, would be having some level of awareness of what you're listening to and checking sources.
mhm,
Um,
yep.
I think, or understanding that everything has sort of there's a motive between that, whether it's to sell you something, right, or a point of view, right? And it does feel like the news is not neutral anymore. And I started intentionally watching both sides of the aisle, Fox
Mhm.
News and NBC, intentionally back and forth to see what they
Yeah.
were saying about a story. And
Mhm.
it was like, are you in the same world? Like they're completely
Yeah.
different. This is like completely different. Like, whoa. And I started doing that like in 2015, I think it was, like intentionally, because it was like, wow, this
Mhm.
is feels like it's getting weird. And then you could just see it. Like you could see how radically different the same story was being portrayed and how that
Mhm.
would affect your mind, right? And so, I thought we were talking about this. It'd be fun to talk about kind of more, Hollywood, the Baldoni, Blake Lively thing, because
Yep.
all of those dynamics are in play there and it's not politics, right? So it's something that's hopefully less triggering for
Mhm.
people, right? Although it might still be, right? It's men against women kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but, you know, it was clear that they weren't getting along. It was clear that there was some sort of dynamic. And when I first, and I'm not into that stuff, right? Is not my thing. So,
Mhm. Same here. I read
uh,
it once and, well, I walked away.
I
Yeah.
saw a few sometimes on my YouTube feed, I'll see like highlights on stories and I won't even click on them, but I'll read the header, like, oh,
Mhm.
okay. So, it was pretty clear. And Jacqueline was kind of following, but very lightly too. She's not into it either, but she might have had a little bit more awareness of what was going on than I did. And she, was like, oh, this is going on. And it was pretty clear that initially the media coverage and what was going out was making that Baldoni, the dude, look like a
Mhm.
total ass, like a
Mhm.
prick. Like, man,
The
this
bad
guy,
the
like
guy
this
really
dude,
abused her,
yeah,
mean, yeah.
yeah, like
Male
whoa,
chauvinist, narcissistic, yeah.
yeah, sexist, male chauvinist, and I'm like, yeah, but he was the writer and director, wasn't he? you know, and okay, and he was. This whole story was about being, you know, breaking the cycle of, abuse
Abuse.
again towards women, and
Mhm.
he's an abuser. Wow, maybe he's one of those predator guys, sociopath or whatever, right? Because that's how it made him pretty
Mhm.
extreme, right? But I again floats through the brain. It's like, okay,
Mhm.
whatever. Not paying attention to it. I didn't get hooked or triggered by it, right?
Yeah. Same
Uh,
here.
and then uh, found some stuff about Baldoni, and Jacqueline had actually done some of this. She wanted to figure out what was going on, and she's actually really good about that. Like she'll intentionally look at the other side to see, hey, like
Good.
when all this anti-Trump stuff, she was just like, "What is Trump?" She actually dug up and found some Netflix documentaries on him, and his life as a
Mhm.
child and how he grew up, and so she was trying to figure out who this person is, and that's one
Mhm.
of the things that she's really good at is always going deeper about you know what the motivation was for somebody, what
Yeah.
they were,
Mhm.
and sometimes it's annoying to me because it's like it's too deep and sorry, babes, you know that I love you, but you know what I mean. Sometimes it's almost like, wow, okay, here we go. And she's going into the deeper stuff. So
But
and
good to know that she's doing that because she's
yeah,
like,
it's beautiful.
"No,
It's
I don't
actually
want it to be their opinion, I want it to be my opinion what
yeah.
I'm seeing." Yeah.
And I guess so what we're talking about is how you process that and how do you deal with that
Mhm.
because everything that's coming at us is a perspective. And I guess
Mhm.
remembering that and being aware that everything that you're being fed is a perspective and there's a motivation for why you're being told that from that perspective.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yeah.
so the initial media stuff about Baldoni was really negative. Jack Lehman did some research and found that here's this guy who did a TED talk about being a man and toxic masculinity and how not to be an ass as a man anymore in this
Yeah.
world, and that he has been on all these
It's about
podcasts.
his talk was about how to be a better man
Yeah,
and not allow these things, is it? Yeah,
yes,
so
and literally standing up for women, standing up for women's rights, like that kind of a
mhm.
man who understands um, the oppression that women have been under, like very conscious, right? Not that he's perfect, right? Not, but he seemed very conscious. And so then all of a sudden, the perspective about, what is going on here changes. Like,
Mhm.
is he really that? Or is he masquerading as that
That's a
because that's his PR
facade.
firm told him to do that,
Mhm.
right? And so he's got an angle. Here's my angle. Because some of these some people on social media, sometimes they just have angles, you know what I mean? They're just trying to sell
Mhm.
a product or whatever.
Which
So they
yeah.
have a brand they create, and my brand is this. And so just being aware of that, it was very interesting for me to see how much my own mind was shifting about
Mhm.
this event that I really don't care that much about. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
it's interesting, but it's also like, okay, and you could say you could read into there's, oh, there's it's the dynamic of corruption or, sexism in Hollywood, blah, 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 whatever. Uh, but also how do you look at those things and stay in kind of a heart-centered perspective? How do you have an openness and an
Mhm.
acceptance and not getting into judgment? I think that that's really hard.
Mhm.
Because I found myself judging him initially, right? Pretty like,
Yeah.
wow, that dude's a
Mhm.
dick, man. He sounds like a fucking ass,
He's bad. Yeah, he's a bad
And,
dude.
and then he's doing this. What a hypocritical, blah blah blah. How bad do you be to actually portray this front and be the exact opposite? Um,
Mhm.
and then you start seeing some more information and going, wow, is she a fucking total bitch?
Maybe she's the problem.
Maybe she's a
Yeah,
fucking
because
bitch.
that's where the that's where you come up with the, like, a lot of things in society right now, like, I'm reading the paper, it says, "Oh, this is a" someone will say something, and then there's a small little parentheses, but nothing there's no facts to back it up at this point. It's like, well, don't tell me this if there's nothing to back it up. So you need to go check it. If someone says something and there's nothing factual behind it, it may be true. You don't know yet. But don't go, yeah, that was said right there in the paper because that person said that. Well, no, because now with this one, she said that he was an abuser. Well, okay. So what are the facts? What did he do? Okay.
Yeah,
And I need to hear both sides of the story and give me some facts. Don't just say, he did it. He says, no, I didn't. Well, it's just a personal thing of who I believe. So now it needs to be more of a give me some facts. So if
yeah.
someone's not willing to give you information to back it up, then that's a question in itself,
And
right there.
yeah, 100%. And then the ultimate,
Mhm.
I think we have in a couple of podcast episodes, we talked about that Chinese fable about the, good or bad,
Mhm.
I don't know.
Yep.
That's the bottom line of it is that farmer, good
Yep.
things are seemingly good things are happening. And then the farmer, and he's like, I don't know, maybe it is good, maybe it's not. I don't know, and then seemingly bad things happen. Maybe it's bad, maybe it's good. I don't know. Right. And he keeps saying that. Right. And that's been,
Mhm.
it's actually kind of funny because it's sort of been this mantra in my head for the last couple of weeks ever since we talked about it.
Yeah.
Is it
Same
good,
here, by the
bad?
way.
Yeah, good, bad. I don't
Yeah.
know. We'll see. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Is all that stuff going on, in the White House good or bad? Good or bad? I don't know. We'll see. And it's kind of
Mhm.
helped me to sort of stay a little bit more open and just, observe it
Yeah.
without getting triggered about stuff. But that's also what I'm talking about with regard to all of this stuff with Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. Is it good or is it bad? Is she good or bad? I don't know. Is he good or
We
bad?
don't know.
I don't know. You know,
Yeah.
and 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 also I think we were talking about where again staying out of judgment. The
Mhm.
mind wants to judge. And then that's part of the way the mind is wired, right? For safety. Is this a threat? Is this not a threat? And so your mind naturally goes to those places. And that's why the power of meditation to quiet the mind so you can get into the heart space. And the heart space is openness. When it's open, it's openness and accepting of everything, right? So
Mhm.
the divine God, whatever you want to call it, can love all of you and love all of us and love all of creation, unconditionally. We've talked about that, right? So how do you get out of the mind, the judging mind, and into this open
Mhm.
spaciousness where you can say, okay, I can hold space for all of that. And then you start to feel more compassion, like, okay, you know,
It's just
is so and so being is Blake Lively being super crazy, bitch, whatever, right?
yeah.
Well, is she, that saying, hurt people.
Mhm.
What's been in her life? What was her journey where she feels like she needs to be like this in order to feel safe in her world? Maybe she's been
And
trampled.
yeah, and if she's not telling the truth, then that's her issue inside of her. She's got lots of issues, which sucks
Yeah,
for him because he's getting called out, but it's called that take a breath,
yep,
stop, drop, and breathe.
yep,
One for your individual self, if you're hearing both stories, going like, wait, I'm not going to sit here and get argumentative about both. I'm just going to say, okay, just let both sides be there, and just try to look into that and see which is going on. Do a little bit of research.
yeah,
If it's something that's on your heart and you're like, okay, I
yeah,
really need to understand this more because I like I like her as an actor, but is this being true? Okay, yeah, this is what's going on. Or if you're in that situation, do this, stop, drop, and breathe. It can take a lot more of that if you're in it, because then that's where you have to go, okay, what's going on here? I need to not react quickly. I just need to come through the process, slowly figure it out.
And yeah, and I think that when you do that and you've dropped into the heart, um, and you know it because what you feel is compassion. I think that that is
Hmm.
the result. I think that if you say, "Oh, I'm gonna drop in, and now I wanna do some more research," and you do some more research and you go, "Oh, yeah, she really is a bitch," or "That guy really is
Hmm.
an asshole,"
Yeah.
you're just passing judgment, and
Hmm.
that then you're still in your head, right? So how do you know whether you've accomplished getting into this the heart space and living from that place? Is
Mm-hmm.
that what will arise naturally? The Buddhists have that expression, is what arises naturally, compassion arising naturally. In other words, it's not the right thing to do. It's not the moral thing to do. I should be more open. It's what arises from your heart as you start to look at it and you go, wow, these are two people
Yeah.
in, let's say, you don't know, these are two people in pain and they're just acting out their pain because of, something happened or whatever, right? And you feel a sense of compassion for everyone, you know, versus, oh no, that person really is the bad person and that person is the good person. Now I can be the king and I can judge. I can pass judgment clearly because I've done my research and now I know who's bad, right? Because you're still judging.
Just yeah.
You're
So
just
there's
judging
a
with more information.
yeah.
So,
There's a as we all live by, how we do in this world, we live by music and we abide by what they sing. There's a song, there's a country song, and I love it so much because it's real,
that country
um,
music always brings out real,
real life,
just
and
real
it's
life
about it's about a
drama.
dating situation. They broke up, and he goes, there's two in a breakup. There's two sides to every story, both are right, both are wrong. You know, he goes, and he's talking about he goes, if you stop telling the lies about me, I won't tell the truth about you. He goes, can't we just meet in the middle? Both sides are right, both sides are wrong. There's two sides to every story. And I love that. He goes, you stop telling lies about me, I won't tell the truth about you. It's like, just, I'm like, wow, real. Because there are two sides to every story. With Justin and Blake, there's two stories going on.
Yeah,
We don't know what the inside of all that is, but
yeah,
he's got his story, she's got his story. Only, and even as you dwell in to find out more about that, do we really know what's really going on?
yeah,
Only the two people that know are those two, or
yeah.
people that were around them. And so that's that, hey, breathe, find out what's going on with you inside, and then there are two sides of every story.
Yeah.
So we may never know the
And
full story of those two, but
and the what we have talked about on this podcast before about, um, it's not what you do, it's where you do it from. Right? So
yeah.
it's not the action, right? If you're gonna judge action, right? It's not the
Mhm.
action, like, "Oh, I'm gonna go do this," because you could be, "Oh, I'm feeding the homeless because these homeless are a bunch of scumbag idiots, worthless losers, and I have to
Mhm.
help them, and I'm better than them, and so I'll help them." Or you could have it from a place of nothing but loving compassion. This is my brother,
Exactly.
this is my sister, and
Mhm.
I have the ability to be of service, and I'm doing this from a place of loving compassion and service, right? The
Mhm.
action can look the same. I'm working at a soup kitchen feeding, but the
Yeah.
where it's coming
Where's
from
it
is
where's it
completely
coming
different,
from? Yeah.
right? And
And
so,
yeah, keep going.
and when you don't know that, because all you see as an outsider is the action, who am I to judge that person's heart? I don't know that. I don't know what is in
Mhm.
their heart. And so that's kind of where, it calls us into stopping and saying, who am I to judge, right? Who am I to, I don't know, but I feel if I see something that seems like, my mind is saying, yeah, that looks pretty shitty, right? Then
And
it's compassion to say, wow,
yeah. And in reality, okay, so yes, it's an interesting story about Blake and Jessica, what's going on, whatever it is. Um, but when you go into your heart and you breathe a little bit and you're processing it, is this something that really is going to affect me? At this point, do I really need to let this affect my life that harsh?
yeah,
Because it's like, okay, it's those two in Hollywood going through this, and who knows what story's going on. But yes, if I'm if I'm Blake's husband, yeah, I gotta figure this out. Okay, what's going on with this stuff? Was she abused, or whatever the situation is? But you have to say, is this really going to affect me? Do I need to go so deep into it that it upsets and changes my life and affects my life in a
yeah,
negative way?
yeah,
If not, let it go and
yeah,
know that it's there and just let it go. It's not affecting you.
yeah.
It's interesting to know, But if it's affecting you negatively, then you need to find a way to say, if it doesn't affect me personally, get away from it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That is,
so
yeah, the art of sort of letting go, of allowing
mhm,
things without worrying about it and just, "Okay, this too shall
mhm,
pass," kinda thing, just letting things sort of pass through, um, with a sort of lightness about it, right? Without getting
mhm,
too caught into those things, and that is, with something like this, our little example of, Baldoni and whatever, Lively, and, okay, fine. That's a little easier to do because it doesn't feel so
hmm,
important for most of us, right? But if you get into politics, it can feel like, "Oh my god, this is affecting, my livelihood or my ability to be, free in the
mhm,
country," or whatever, right? So, those things are stronger hooks, but the same process can
yeah,
happen, right? The process can
mhm,
be the same. And a lot of times in some of the in meditations, they'll talk about, bringing it back into the present moment. Like, how are you feeling right now?
mhm,
Do I have
yeah,
a house? Yes. Do I have running
mhm,
water? Yes. Do I have food?
mhm,
Yes. Don't worry
yep,
about anything else.
yeah,
You know,
and if it is something that affects your world, then come into that calm, into your heart, into the breathing, and say, okay, now that I've had time to let my brain relax and think, how can I process through this in a positive way
yeah.
with peace?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not, and we're saying some of these things aren't easy to get through, but don't just jump and go stronghold on it. Take time to breathe because it may be
Yeah.
something that you need to act on, but let yourself relax, clear your brain, and act properly in a
Fr
positive manner.
yeah, from that place of peace and groundedness
Yes.
first, right?
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
Ram Dass had the book, it was called Be Here Now, right? It's like, be here,
Yeah. Mhm.
right in this moment, now,
Yep.
not in the future.
Exactly.
So it's like right where you are, right where you're sitting, be right here,
Mhm.
right now, not
Yeah.
yesterday, not 10
Mhm.
years ago, not tomorrow, not
Mhm.
10 years from now in the future, like no future
You
tripping, no
you can't
past.
change yeah, you can't change that,
Yeah.
and you can only deal a little with the future. It's like, "Hey, this is
It,
a planning thing, but I don't know what's gonna happen in the future."
yeah. And
You
the only
know?
way you
If
can do
I'm
that
here
is right
now
now.
yeah, what I do now will affect what happens
Yeah.
later, so I need
Yeah.
to be now.
Yes.
So,
So it's
you
be
know
here now, right? And allowing yourself that space.
ooh, I
Um,
like that. Be here now.
Yeah,
Be
Ram Dass, that
here
is a
now.
1960s classic book, literally called that, and it's
Mhm.
written like hippie style graffiti. It's totally crazy.
Yes.
It's
I
like
like it.
he wrote all the way
Mhm.
around the outside of the pages and stuff like it's totally a wild book. Um,
Cool.
but that,
I think it's a
be
good s
here,
yeah.
right here, where you are
Mhm.
now, not tomorrow,
Mhm.
not 5 not minutes from now, not yesterday, right here. Be here now.
Mhm.
And
Be here
that's
now and be here now in a clear mind.
yes, and that is
So
harder to that is easy to say and hard to do. It's one of those
oh,
things that
yeah.
the truth is so simple, and, the challenge is doing that when stuff is coming up in the world, right? And your stuff is coming up within your mind, and how do you do that?
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
but that is
I think it's a good spot to end right there because I
I feel
like
like
that.
that.
Be here now in a clear mind, you
Yep,
know? So whatever's going on in the world, stop, be here, you stop, drop into the heart, breathe, and
and
clear your mind. And then go back to what you need to go back to. If you need to go
and
back to
then
that topic, at least your mind is now clear.
yeah, and you're aligning yourself, so you're dropping into that place of
Mhm.
the heart which can accept all things and is at peace
Yeah.
with all things and can hold loving compassion for everything. But then you can align your energy in the direction that you wanna see
Yeah.
move, right?
Mhm.
It's okay,
Exactly. So,
but you're doing that. You'll be doing that from that place of love and compassion and from peace
yeah,
within because you've anchored
exactly.
there first, right? Um, so
And
that's it.
that makes you feel better going forward. You're more
Yes. Yes.
not as stressed. I'm not gonna say you'll
Yes.
be less no stress, it'll be not as much stress.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, right? And
So,
less and maybe no, I'm not
maybe
gonna upper
not.
limit you. Maybe you
No.
can hit it, right? And you can hit it
Come
and you
on, get
blissed out
it.
as you're going, man. There's nothing wrong with that, right?
Oh, man, I agree. I agree.
So, yeah, and hopefully
Well,
you're laughing a little bit more along the way, right? And you can
yeah,
have a little more fun as you're going
enjoy
along
the
this
journey.
adventure. Yeah,
Enjoy the
that's for
journey, go
sure.
like, "Wow, this is kind of interesting to go through." So
Yeah, yeah.
so,
So, a lot
yeah,
of
so hope
times
you're all
yeah.
out there and, have a chance to just sit there and relax and enjoy the journey and keep a smile on as you go through this week.
Yeah, and, you know what, uh, right there, like, subscribe, and we've been doing these shorter ones, so hopefully you've enjoyed that, so,
Mhm.
give us a comment, and let us know if you're enjoying this slightly shorter format.
Yeah, definitely subscribe so you know when we post them out there, you'll get a little click and telling you, hey, come on, take a listen. So, and if there's anything you want to talk about, want us to talk about, put it in the comments. We'd love to have that.
Yep.
Tell your friends.
All right.
Definitely tell your friends.
Yep. Love you guys. Thanks for sharing this journey with us, and we'll see you on the next one.
Yeah. Keep that smile on. Have a great week.